collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up on the programme this week, an online petition is launched to urge the government to get a move on introducing our National Health Service.
The main problem is that the state hospitals, they are under the health ministry and they rule according to the public sector laws and regulations.
The Pharos International Chamber Music Festival starts tonight.
Superb acoustics and of course the finest piano on the island, the Steinway Concert Grand.
And Cyprus' last queen, Caterina Cornaro, is travelling to New York.
The story of Caterina Cornaro from the age of 14 until her death, the last queen of Cyprus. We get to see how she was a pawn.
We've spoken many times on the programme about the problems faced by the National Health Service, or non-existence of such in Cyprus. Our Health Minister is determined to see it through, but seems to encounter problems every step of the way. Joining us from the other end of the scale this week is the chairman of the Pan-Cyprian Federation of Patients' Associations and Friends, because they have put up an online petition to try and back the implementation of GESI, as it's known in Greek, the Cypriot National Health Service. Marios Kouloumas, welcome to the programme.
Thank you so much.
You have worked with many of the different associations that are concerned with health issues here, particularly supporting patients. So what do you see as the current problem and how can it be fixed? It does seem, as I just said in the introduction, that every step of the way we come across a new problem, and they're usually from what we might say are interest groups.
First of all, I would like to say that the Federation representing all the patient organizations in Cyprus. So we are an umbrella organization representing the patient organizations, and we're representing, of course, the interests of the patients. And we can also say the interests of the people living in Cyprus in general. So there are a lot of problems, as we all know, when living in Cyprus and we ask for health care services, we know that there are many problems. Many problems about equality access to the health care system. And actually in Cyprus there are two different systems. There is the private one, that if you have money you can have access to these private health care services, and there is the state hospitals, and there are people that they have access without to pay anything because of the criteria that we have, the financial criteria.
So you're talking there particularly about civil servants. We all know that They not only get pensions they don't contribute to, but they also get free healthcare in the
free
government
healthcare
hospitals.
According to your wage, if you are working to your financial criteria. So there is a problem of access to quality and safety healthcare services. And what we like to see, and for many years there are many discussions about these issues, for decades I can say, we discussed to reform the healthcare system in Cyprus in order to implement a new system that covers all the people, despite if you have money or not money, if you work or not working, and also to unite the whole sector of the healthcare.
We're talking
services.
About universal healthcare.
Universal healthcare. So, and about equality. Despite if you have money or not, where you live, to have access to these high quality and safety healthcare services. So there is a law that is passed in the parliament back in 2001, describe the healthcare system, but unfortunately all this year it was many discussions and without any results to implement that. So now we came to the situation that after the financial crisis, many people, they faced these problems, and so many Cypriots, all the people who have faced this financial crisis, they moved to the public sector in order to obtain health services.
When previously they were paying their own way in the
Previously,
private
they had
sector.
the means to go to the private sector. So, and then it was the problem, very big problems in these regards, and of course the state hospital, they didn't have the means to
cope with
all these people coming to the state hospitals. But also we have to say that in Cyprus we didn't have also the mechanisms and also the authorities to control and to evaluate the health services.
So but we keep hearing about the autonomy of state hospitals, and that seems now to be one of the things that's being brought up by parliamentarians for more discussion. Explain to me how the autonomy of state hospitals impacts on this whole idea of a national health service.
So one of the requirements in order to implement the healthcare services, the healthcare system in Cyprus,
as it has been laid down,
yes, and described in the law and in the planning to implement that, we should have state hospitals that they can rule themselves, to have autonomy and to rule themselves, and to have this new system of governing of the hospitals.
So they would have control over their own budgets, for example?
And the budgets, and they has also the opportunity to take decisions and to make changes.
Now, how are we going to do that with the current structure of state hospitals? Because we don't have people at the top, I think, who are managers. And people who know how to manage a budget and where to allocate resources.
Yes, the main problem is that the state hospitals, they are under the health ministry, and they rule according to the public sector laws and regulations and everything. So that is one of the big problems, that they cannot take decisions and they cannot control their budget and the things that they should change in the hospitals. So in the new law that is discussed now in the Parliament, it changed that and makes these hospitals with the new governing body that they can take control and take decisions.
And make sure each hospital is run efficiently.
And yes, of course, and to make the changes in order to make these hospitals capable to cope with the challenges that we're going to face in the new environment of the healthcare system that we're going to implement later.
Now, the opposition to that seems to be coming from the doctors themselves.
I must say that the concerns from the health professionals mainly is regarding to their status of employment. And I think that in the law, but also in the regulations that is already approved by the Committee of the Health in the Parliament, they are already accommodated all their concerns there. So all the employment issues is already covered, and I think that there isn't any concerns anymore about this issue.
So the other problem we have is how this is going to be paid for, and then we come to this business of insurance. Is it multi-payer or single-payer? And that, again, seems to come up as a problem every time this bill goes for discussion or for amendments.
So the plan, as is described in the law, but also all the studies that we have from very big companies that they are specialized in these issues, says that in Cyprus we should have a single insurance system.
And that, we should say, is because those studies have shown that in a place the size of Cyprus, with the population coverage, that a multi-payer system is just not viable.
Yes, but of course we should see that now in Cyprus there isn't any culture about people to know what is the universal healthcare system, what is about that, how it's about to pay every month from my income in order to receive if I need health care services. But also, we should first build the infrastructure. We don't have any infrastructure until now. So, first we should build all this infrastructure. We should implement, as it is planned, the healthcare system. And then in the long term, when we have started to benefit from this system, and all the people they exactly know, and also we build the culture of the people and of the patients, how it is to be respected your rights, and how it is for the patient and for the people to choose their doctor and to choose the hospital they would like to admit it.
Do you think that one of the biggest problems we've got at the moment is that our lawmakers have been delaying this because they aren't getting the push they need from the voters, and we have elections coming up, to say, get on with it. We all know that universal healthcare is, I think we're the only European country that doesn't have it, so we need it here in Cyprus. Tell us about the petition and how you're going to get the message across to people to put that pressure on the government.
Indeed, this is one of the problems, and mainly all these years we didn't succeed to implement the healthcare system because of that, because there are many interests about these things, and there are people and also groups that they have delayed. But now we have the movement, let's say movement, because always we said there is our federation is a movement of the patients. So we have a very strong movement now of patients, but also of people supporting us. And we ask for the members of the parliament that we vote, that they should bring that forward, and they should vote for that, for the both bill that are now in the parliament, one for the autonomous of the hospitals and the other one for the healthcare system, and we should move forward. How is that planned? And that's why our federation is already launched a campaign. First target, and the target of course is the people, is all the patients, all the people living in Cyprus, in order to be engaged in our campaign and to support our demands. And we have two objectives of this campaign. The first one is to inform the people about ESE, about the healthcare system that we're going to implement, the benefits of this system for the people, the benefits of having this system in your daily life, because this system will cover all the health care needs of the people from the day that they're born until the day that they die.
It's extraordinary, really, isn't it, that the government that's trying to implement this hasn't been educating the population itself?
Yes, this is one of the problems that we understand, that the people, they don't know much about the new system.
For those that do, and that you have enlightened with our chat on the programme today, how can they help?
Yes.
Where can they put their name on this petition?
We'll be in the internet, the campaign. So we're going to have a landing page that we're going to upload many informations, and then we also wait to have some questions from the people, and then we're going to give answers, so to answer all the things that they are not clear to the people.
Where can people find this page?
It can be found in our Facebook page. It's a Cyprus Federation of Associations, Patients and Friends. So this is our Facebook page. Also, they can find this information in our webpage. It's the same.
So, if we look online for the Pan-Cyprian Federation of Patients, Associations and Friends, find all the details, ask your questions and get some clarification if you have doubts. But that is going to be a huge move to galvanise the Cypriot citizens, wherever they happen to be, to put pressure on the government to get on with GESI.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
The much-anticipated 17th Pharos International Chamber Music Festival kicks off tonight in Nicosia and will run through to the 20th of the month, when it will end in Kuklia in the Pharos district. Joining me from the Pharos Arts Foundation is Garo Kecheyan, who's the mastermind, I think we could say, Garo, behind this now highly successful annual classical music event in Cyprus. So what have you brought this year and why?
Well, as you said, as you rightly said, we are now in our 17th year, and the festival has established itself, I think, as one of the finest chamber music festivals of its kind in Europe. primarily because of its the quality of the musicians that come year after year, but also the venues we use and the fact that it's rather special to have such high-quality music in such exceptional venues.
And the venues, I mean, we know the shoe factory in Nicosia, that's an old building that's been renovated and has become a very cosy music centre, as it were. But then we've also got the highlight, in a sense, of the manor house at Kuklia in Pharos. Tell us a bit about the history of that venue, because people do travel to Cyprus from abroad to go and sit in the audience there, don't they?
That's right, yes, two very different venues. I mean, the shoe factory is a 60s factory. It was a shoe factory, obviously, and now has been converted into a chamber music space that can accommodate up to 200 people and has superb acoustics and, of course, the finest piano on the island, a Steinway Concert Grand. The other venue at Kuklia sits a few hundred meters from the coast, with lovely sea views, and is actually a very, very ancient site. It's the sanctuary of Aphrodite, one of the most sacred sites in the ancient world. It's even reputed that a Roman emperor visited, rather like Trump or Obama coming to Cyprus. But it does also have a beautiful medieval element within the sanctuary that includes a medieval hall, which also can accommodate around 200 people.
And the acoustics there, I've heard, are brilliant as well.
Yes, they are quite good, but I think not as good as the shoe factory, to be honest. It's just that it is a stone structure and with stone floors, and I think that perhaps there's more resonance than I would have liked.
But nevertheless, it is a very popular venue. So tell us quickly what you've got coming up this season.
Well, we've got 20 musicians coming from all over the world. Some of our regulars, of course, who come every year, the two artistic directors of the festival. And, as I said, some of the artists whose names are very familiar now as part of the festival, people like Yevgeny Sudbin coming, Boris Provstein, the pianist and the violinist I just mentioned. But also we have, I think very importantly, Sergei Babayan coming, who, all the way from the United States, he's the mentor and teacher of Daniel Trifanov. We have Vladimir Khorodenko coming, who came once to the shoe factory, but I think it's the first time he's participating in the festival. And many others.
And what about the programme itself and the choice of music? Who oversees that?
Well,
you've got to get
it's a good thing you asked that, because you called me the mastermind, but actually I'm not really the mastermind.
You're the mastermind of the festival.
Of the foundation, maybe, but the festival, no, we have two artistic directors, as I mentioned, and of course the artistic director of the foundation itself, Ivan Georgiadou, has an input in the selection of the programming, together with Alex Chaushan and Levon Chilingirian. But I think it's very important that we introduce, again, lesser-known works, together with some of the very established contemporary music repertoire. So we have works that I think in the normal course of events you wouldn't get to hear, by composers who aren't, as well known. We have for example, a piece by Glass, we have a piece by Sauchon, we have a piece by Saint-Saëns, his quartet for piano and strings, of course, as well as Mozart and Bach and Beethoven and Schumann and Schubert.
All the usuals as well in there. So where can people get their tickets? And do you do still a sort of season ticket for Kuklia?
Well, the tickets are so ridiculously cheap, quite frankly. They're a symbolic 10 euros each. I mean, if you would be listening to these kind of artists anywhere else in the world, in a festival, you'd be paying 5, 6, 7 times the amount that you're paying. So tickets are available online, but also at various venues. I really recommend people to go to our website at pharosartsfoundation.org, and that's PHAROSARTS Foundation, all one word, .org, and there you will find various ways of purchasing tickets.
And how are they going already? Because they usually sell out pretty fast.
Well, they do, but, this is Cyprus, and one never really knows until the last minute how many people actually turn up. But
because the space is limited, I mean, you can't just expect to get in if they are going for a particularly popular concert.
No, that's very true. I highly recommend people to purchase their tickets in advance. And as you know, this year Pharos has more international attention than it has in other years.
Because it's the European capital of culture.
That's right. And hotels must be quite full, so if you're planning to come from abroad, it's certainly a good idea to get moving.
So that's the Pharos Arts Foundation's International Chamber Music Festival, opening tonight at the Shoe Factory in Old Nicosia, just €10 per concert ticket. You won't, as Zagara said, find those cheaper anywhere else, I have no doubt. We should also add that during the festival, many of the artists who come to perform here also conduct workshops and do outreach programmes with the young people in Cyprus to bring classical music to a wider audience.
Get in touch with the Cyprus News Digest by emailing cyprusnewsdigest@gmail.com.
In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Monarch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
It received rave reviews a couple of years ago, and it's coming back. What is it? It's Caterina Cornaro, of course, the last Queen of Cyprus. And a play was written about her, and joining us is the director, Andreas Araouzos. Andreas, it was very well received when you first put it on a couple of years ago, but now you've got huge news because you're going to take it to New York. Tell me about that.
It's very exciting. This project started 2 years ago, and indeed, as you say, it was only planned for 3 shows on the terrace of the CVAR in Old Nicosia with 50 chairs. Most beautiful terrace, and especially at sundown, and that's when we start the show. And it turned out to be, I think, 13 or 15 shows with 100 chairs on the terrace. We never expected this, and it's very exciting because I think part of this success is the sentimentality, given that it's drama, but it's part of the Cyprus history. And I think the venue also plays a huge deal. Not only it's a museum with an entire floor dedicated to Caterina Cornaro, but also at that point in the city where you get a sense of the occupied Nicosia as well. You get a view of that, and all that brings it all. Let's just say it smells of history. And now we've applied to the United Solo Theatre in New York, which is an established annual festival where they accept applications from all over the world with monologues, with one actor on stage. And we were very happy when we heard we were accepted. And that's happening on the 9th of November. And so we thought, okay, since we are going into redoing this, we've got to have another 2 shows in Nicosia on that terrace, which is its birthplace, and it's very exciting. It's very exciting that it's by a Cypriot author as well, Anthi Zachariadou. She wrote the story of Caterina Cornaro from the age of 14 until her death, the last Queen of Cyprus. We get to see how she was a pawn of international politics and how they really would stop at nothing.
Because her husband was murdered, wasn't he? And her child.
And so we get to see her account of this story, looking back on it. And I think Cristina Maruchu is the actress who's doing the Queen. We worked... I'm very happy that we are 2 years from when we started, we are revisiting it, because and that people are interested still. Some people are watching it again. Some people never got to see it. We are very happy with how people are responding to this. Because listen, I mean, I do drama for 14 years now, and a monologue, a historical monologue, to have this much of appeal, it really is, I wouldn't expect it.
But then Caterina Cornaro was very popular with the Cypriot people, wasn't she? They loved her.
Absolutely, and we do get to see glimpses of why, as the woman and as the Queen, of how she loved the people of Cyprus and how she wanted to be a good queen. And as much as she managed to do, she did very good things. And so, yes, I'm very happy to be working again with Cristina on this.
So you're taking it to New York in November. Mm-hmm. I know you've also had performances in Scandinavia, I think, and at the Presidential Palace here in Cyprus.
Absolutely. About a year after we first did it, we were invited to do it at the Presidential Palace under the auspices of the First Lady for a charity cause. And so we did it in, this time it wasn't open air, it was in the big hall of the Presidential Palace, and it was packed. And again, the feedback we get from the audience was brilliant. And then a few months later, there was an exchange program with Norway and the CVAR. And so we took it to the Oslo Literature House for one performance. And again, now that was even more interesting because, again, it was indoors. And we had a few Cypriots there, but mostly it was Norwegian audience members. And again, I mean, they had no connection to the last Queen of Cyprus, no emotional link. And yet we got to see the same sort of reactions after they watched this drama. And I always say this, it's the audience that has the last word, and they decide. They have the final vote on the success of a show. And really, we are taught so much by the audience reactions. I can almost say we really don't know exactly what we're doing when we're doing it. We've got some logic into our art, but unless the audience speaks or reacts, there is no show. That's when the show is. And we were very thrilled with the reactions of the Norwegian people as well. And obviously now in New York, we're hoping that we're going to have a good turn-up of both Cypriots and Americans, and we'd love to see the show. It's in English, of course, we should say.
And remind us then the last two chances to see it in Nicosia.
It's the 13th and 14th of June at the beautiful terrace on Ermou Street in Old Nicosia of the Severis Foundation. It starts at 8. And it's a beautiful time because of the sundown. And people can reserve their seats or tables, and you can have a drink as well on the terrace.
So where can they book?
They can book on telephone number 7000 1140 or via email on alpha, with a PH, at alphasquare.com.cy.
Alpha at alphasquare.com.cy.
And of course, they can people can find details on our Facebook page, Alpha Square, and there's also an event page for Caterina, last Queen of Cyprus.
That's Andreas Araouzos, the director of that play, which will be taking Cyprus all the way to New York in November. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.